Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So today's video we're going to be making 6 cards using these papers here. This is from the Tonic Studio magazine craft kit and this came from, I believe it was number 16, issue 16. So I did a commission for them using the other products, but I didn't incorporate any of the papers, and I'm really trying to start to use up some of the papers and things that I have in my stash. And I'm really enjoying actually creating kind of multiple cards using products like this. So in the kit you get stencils, dies and stamps, and also this paper pack. It comes with toppers that you can die cut with sentiments, and I've done that. So when we get into the cards I'll show you that I've already cut out all of those pieces. This is all very much spring themed, so you got some really beautiful kind of floral papers in here, and I do really love the color palette as well. So the only products that I am bringing in is going to be just a few dies and some embellishments at the end, and of course then these card bases. So I've already, like I said, fussy cut out what I wanted to use, and I kind of placed them on the cards sort of roughly to give me a better idea of how I want to lay these cards out and what I actually needed to use, and then we can incorporate those papers as well. So I've got 2 slimline, 2 6x6 and 2 5x7s as well. So we've got lots of florals in here, we've got the springtime sentiments, we've got some birdhouses, and I really do love how these cards came out. They are, as of today, going to be available to purchase on my Etsy shop. There is a link in the description box down below for you, and you can also purchase my paper ink stamp sets from there as well. So like I said, I'm only bringing in a couple of dies here. So these are the Creative Craft Products nesting dies, the slimline stitched edge dies. We've got the scalloped rectangles, and then we have that scalloped oval as well. So let's get into creating our card. So the first one I'm going to make is this slimline. So I'm going to take one of these stitched edge rectangles from the Creative Craft Products. So the largest die in here, this is the DL sized ones. The largest die fits perfectly onto my DL card bases, which is great because some of the others, because they're super sized, they're a lot bigger than maybe like my 5x7 for those. So I'm just going to use this really lovely sort of more of a mustard yellow kind of colour. I'm not adding any other papers into this. I could have matte and layered this a lot more, but I really wanted to just kind of use the kit just on its own. But you know, yeah, you could add in just solid colours in here, but the papers is a great mix between solids and you know, more patterned kind of papers, so I kind of got away with it quite nicely. So now I've got that base started. I'm going to just create something for my plants to sit on. So this is going to have the 3 plants on here with a sentiment, and I just wanted to ground it slightly. So I've just trimmed a strip from this really lovely kind of pastel blue paper here. I'm not going to put a sentiment on until the end of this video, only because I wasn't really sure which sentiment I wanted to use. But for this, I'm just going to take one of my Copic sketch markers. I think this is the G46. This is the darkest green that I've got. And I just went around the edge of this strip. So this is a really great way if you don't want to use mats and layers and things to help it really stand out from your background, because it is quite light in comparison to that background. It's a really great way of just helping it stand out without having to add anything extra. So I'm going to use my tape runner here today. The main reason I'm using my tape runner over maybe my liquid glue and things is because this paper is slightly thinner. It is slightly on the thinner side. I didn't want to then get any kind of warp in if I used the glue on it. So either some double-sided tape, or a tape runner like this. So I've got my 3 plants in here. So in the kit for the papers, you have 2 of each. So obviously they are double-sided, but what I did is just trimmed mine down so they were just single pages, because it comes more like a book. And then, so I'm treating it as I have 1 sheet of each. So you do get a couple of sheets with elements like this that you can fussy cut. You get them with sentiments as well. So you do get quite a lot in this kit. And it you know, even just from the papers, like I said, I'm creating 6 cards here, but I've still got papers left over that I could absolutely probably create another maybe 3 or 4 cards, if not more. I definitely use most of the elements, but just in terms of those papers. So I've just added some foam tape to the back of these plants. I think these are really great plants. I left so I have like a nice thin white border around it. But yeah, I just think that they're just quite cute images, I think. So I'm just going to add then my backing onto my DL sized card base here. And again, then I'm just going to put these 3 plants just on that strip. And again, like I said, it just really helps to kind of grind them so it doesn't look like it's sort of floating around kind of too much. So for the time being, that is going to be my finished card. Like I said, I'm going to pop a sentiment on at the end. And then also at the end, all in one go, I'm going to add some gems and jewels to this. But such a simple card, you know, really, really simple cards here. But because you've got all of those elements and the sentiments within the kit and the papers, I think they make some really brilliant cards. So for my next card, this is going to be a 6x6 square card here. So you can see I've got 2 of these little plants and then I have 3 of these bird houses as well, and our sentiments springtimes. So this is 2 separate words that we are just going to be able to put together exactly how we want to. So I'm going to take another one of these sort of mustard yellow backgrounds here. And then I wanted to create a smaller piece to go in the center, so a smaller square, just to help lift our flowers and our toppers and things from the background. And also then I wanted to kind of use more of these papers as well. So I'm having a really, really thick border on this. So I would have cut my yellow paper down to 5 3/4 square. And then in terms of this square that's in the middle, this here is 4.5 inches square. So we've got a really nice border. Again, if I was bringing any other papers and things into this, then I would have matte and layered and help this stand out a bit more. But that's why I went with a not so busy paper for this smaller square. Just again, just to help it stand out and be slightly different. So again, there was a lot more toppers that I didn't cut out. You can see a glimpse of them there. So you've got some circles, there's some like bottles and things that you can cut as well. So you do have lots of variety within this set. So I'm just adding this onto my card base. You see, I peeled it back up there. That's what I really love about this tape runner. Until you've really kind of pressed hard on it, you know, you are able to very carefully bring it back up again. So I'm just going to add some foam tape to the back of this smaller square here, again, just to help lift it. And then when you start matte and layering and adding sort of foam and dimension, it is going to create natural differences between your layers. With it being flat, sometimes it can get lost, you know, depending on what kind of papers you're using, it can get lost into each other. But by adding a little bit of foam, it's going to create a small shadow. You're going to have a shadow there, and it is going to just create that depth and dimension, and it's going to separate your 2 patterned papers. So if you were going to do this flat, I would say to add a plain layer in between matte and layer your smaller square there, and that will kind of help. But yeah, definitely add in some foam. You can see it there, just adds that little shadow and really brings it up from your background. So then I added my 3 bird houses just flat, and I'm just adding some foam tape onto the back of the flowers. So these flowers are exactly the same. You've got one is bigger than the other, but they work really nicely together. And again, these are then going to ground those bird houses. And it's all about not necessarily having the images just kind of floating around. You can very simply just sort of cover the very bottom of the card, do what I did in the previous card, and just have it on top of some sort of base. It just really helps, yeah, to grain the cards, and it just gives it a slightly more professional finish. So then I'm just going to add my sentiment. So I'm using my Nuvo glue here. I've popped it into one of these Crafters Companion little glue bottles, and it's got a fine nib end on it. And this is just going to help if I'm having some more fiddly areas where I want to pop this glue. Like the sentiments, you know, it is quite delicate, so it worked perfectly. And that is then our second card finished. Again, we're going to add some gems and things at the end. So the next card is going to be this 5x7 inch card. So again, a little bit more on the basic side, but I really wanted the papers to kind of stand out. I didn't want to have tons and tons going on with these. I wanted, yeah, to let the elements and the papers, because they're patterned papers, I wanted them to kind of speak for themselves. So this one's going to be quite simple. We've got this lovely sort of peachy background here, and it's got these really lovely sort of thin, they look like sort of doodle flowers and things on here. We have got then our sentiment, happy spring, a couple of flowers, and then I'm going to add this daisy patterned paper. I'm going to use my Doodlebug stitched nested circles here just to cut this out. It's going to just add an extra little element to the card, and again then it's going to give us a grounding to be able to put our flowers and our sentiments. So I'm just running that through my die cutter machine. The other thing that I just wanted to mention, talking about that, I do also have a Gemini mini die cutter machine that I am looking to sell. If anybody is looking for a little bit of a bargain on it, it doesn't come with any of the plates. It's just the machine with the plugs and you know, the instructions and everything. You just need to buy the plates for it. If you're interested, leave me a comment down below or reach out to me on social media. I also have a Portrait 3 as well that I'm looking to sell, which is like an electronic cutting machine, much like the Brothers Scan and Cut and the Cricuts and that. So this one's made by Silhouette. Again, if you're interested at all in that, please leave me a comment or again, reach out. So I've added the patterned paper onto my card base. Again, just adding that flat. There's only going to be some dimension here with our sentiment. I've then got my circle, which is going in this bottom right hand side. And again, this is going to help the sentiment. It's going to help it to stand out, and it's going to just be a little bit of a focal point here. So I've added the circle flat as well. And I'm just trying to work out kind of my arrangement. I only end up using 2 of the flowers, so I don't use the blue one, only the yellow and the pink. They're going to be down flat. And then, like I said, I'm going to add some foam tape onto my sentiment. And then we have just another quite simple card, but I really love how these are turning out. Then on to our next one. So again, this is another square one. I really wanted to use this paper here. It's quite busy. There's a lot of colour going on. So I wasn't 100% sure what to put with it, but I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. So I did a slightly bigger border for this. So I think I cut this to 5.5 square for my 6x6 card. And I have this really lovely big kind of sprig. I love how big it is. I love the sort of designs of the flowers. It's very cutesy, and I do very much like that. I've taken another one of the patterned papers, and I'm going to die cut my paper here from just one of the smaller of these oval scalloped edge ovals. And what I love about this pack is you've got lots of different sizes. As they become smaller, the scalloped edge gets smaller with it as well, so you don't have you know, like a really small oval and then some ridiculously big scallops on there. It is all kind of relative to each other. But again, this is going to help because it is a busier background. It's going to help then our elements and things stand out a little bit more again, just because you've got a lot going on. So I've got the lovely sort of floral here. We've got one of these slightly bigger birdhouses, and then we do have that sentiment as well. So first off, I'm just going to add some glue or this tape runner to the back of my patterns paper, and like I said, then I've got that much bigger border on here as well. So if you've got, you know, some scrap papers left over, maybe it's not as big as what you would like it to be initially, you know, you can just have slightly bigger borders on here, or again you can use then plain coloured cardstock to mat and layer these. So I'm going to add my oval with some foam tape. This is the only bit of dimension that we're really going to have. And again, it's just going to help it stand out. It's creating that shadow in between, and I think it just works really nicely. So I glued that down. I am going to add just a little bit of foam tape behind that big flower head, only because it's sort of flapping around. I didn't put any glue there, and I want it to stand very, very even. So I just glued down then our birdhouse as well, just behind our sentiment, and then our sentiment spring is in the air. So these are going to be brilliant. You know, if you've got some birthdays, or, you know, these are very much all occasion kind of cards. So that was the square one finished. Again, really, really simple. When you kind of plan what you're going to do, it just makes all of these cards a lot easier to bring together. So my next card, this was a little bit more tricky for me. So this is my other 5x7 card, and you have this really big floral here, and you can see it's all kind of spilling over, and I thought it would look nice to look like it was kind of just cascading down the card. That's why I popped it onto this 5x7 inch card, but I wanted to do something a little different, and again just try and use up a few more of these papers. So I'm going to be creating kind of a split. So I'm going to have two papers here, and then where it kind of joins in the middle, I'm going to add a another piece of coloured paper here. So we've got the top piece is this much darker, but it does fit with the colours that's in that floral, and it's just mainly the leaves and things. And then for the bottom, I'm going to take this really lovely more muted patterned paper here, and so I'm just kind of working it out because I wanted to have a smaller portion at the top of that darker colour, and then, you know, the majority of the rest of it is going to be this paper just here. And then I'm going to add a yellow strip across the middle, so you can see how it's going to come together. I do wish that the top portion I'd made a little thinner, because I did end up bringing this down slightly further than I wanted it to. I wanted to have the yellow strip that I'm cutting here. I wanted then my floral to sit on that and look like it was cascading from that, but because then my top portion, like I said, was a lot thicker than maybe what I wanted, it just sits sort of that strip sits further down the card than really what I was wanting it to. But again, I'm really happy with how the card turned out. So again, just using my tape runner. I think I went through 2 of these tape runners making these cards. One of them kind of was half used already, but I find them very convenient. I buy them from from Create and Craft, sorry. They have a buy one get one free offer, so it's like £10 for 12 of these, and then I don't go through them particularly quickly because I use my liquid glue as well. I do use double-sided tape. I do find that they do last for a decent amount of time. So I've added both of those. I'm just going to add my strip flat as well. And if you are joining 2 pieces of pattern paper together, this is a really great way of bringing those papers together just by adding something to the center. So, you know, you could use a little bit of ribbon, you could use a floral, you know, like this would hide most of it, but it's nice it's just a nice finishing touch to give your card a little bit more of a polished finish, because you are hiding that join. So I'm just going to pop some foam tape onto the back of this floral. So you can see it is very, very big. It is covering kind of the majority of the width of my card. And because we've got a lot of sort of odds and ends and things, I have cut into it a little bit more when I fussy cut it out. So I want to make sure that I get a good amount of foam tape on here just to help support it. There's nothing worse than kind of putting a little bit of foam tape and then maybe having it kind of sag in the middle or things like that. You want anything you're going to add dimension to, you want it to stay and you want it to support itself. So once I've got the backing off of all of that, I'm going to add that on there. So you can see I wanted to have it more like this, but then I ended up just bringing it up slightly. So I'm just cutting away a little bit of foam tape that is sort of overhanging, and then I can get this down. Then we're going to add, this is Hello Spring, the sentiment, and then it's got this sort of little flourish at the end of the G of spring. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with it. It was a little bit of a harder sentiment to kind of place, and I was looking to see if I wanted a different sentiment or not, but I ended up, again, just adding some foam to this and just placing it above this floral piece. It's just such a big piece, and the sentiment is quite delicate as well, that it was a little harder to kind of join together. So again, another card that I really love how this turned out. We're going to add some gems and things to the end of it, but a really great way of, again, just using up kit. So with this kit, you got, like I said, a stencil, you got a die set, you got a stamp set, and then you get these papers. And of course, then you have all the inspiration in the magazine, and it's the majority of it, if not all of it, I think is pretty much all based on that kit. That is sort of the point of them. So then for my next card, this is going to be my second DL Slimline card. I'm die cutting it with that same nested die here, only because I do really love that stitched detail. I think it just adds something a bit more interesting to the projects. And I'm using this lovely big sort of daisy patterned paper here. I really wanted to make the most of this paper and sort of show as much of it as possible. That's why I left it for this particular card, because I just think it's such a beautiful paper. So again, this one's going to be quite simple, very sort of minimal, because the patterns are very busy. I don't want to overload the card where you're not really sure kind of where it is that you want to look. So I'm going to die cut as well. Again, this is going to be a slightly smaller scalloped oval, just again to help kind of have that sentiment and those few extra little embellishments really stand out from the card. And I wanted to go with a plainer card, so I picked this spotted pink patterned paper here. Again, it's not so busy where it's getting lost in there. I didn't add any dimension, only to the sentiment for this again, so it is flat. So hopefully you might be able to see the difference between just adding 2 bits of patterned paper one on top of each other versus then adding it with a little bit of dimension, and how it does help to kind of separate those papers a little bit. But in this instance, it does sort of just sit on there, and it just kind of is what it is, really. It is sort of a little more lost in that patterned paper. But now we can put our card together. So by having all of the elements, working out the designs, like I said, the cards actually come together very quickly, and it just makes for easy crafting. I said this before when I created those other cards using the Papertree Summer Shores kit, which I am planning to make some more cards with. This is just easy crafting. If you don't necessarily want to get lots of stamping out, lots of colouring, inks and things like that, I think it's quite nice to do something a little different to this, and just creating cards using kits. And it's just simple and easy, and yeah, I'm kind of enjoying that at the moment. But we have got the next Simply Cards and Papercraft magazine to look at. That is going to be coming also, so do look out for that. So I've added some foam tape to the back of my sentiment, and then I'm just going to add these 2 flowers again, just flat onto our card, and that is then going to finish this slimline card as well. So I really love how these are turning out. Again, these will be on sale on my Etsy shop, and there will be a link in the description box down below. So let's take a little look at all of the cards. I'm going to add some embellishments in a second, but they just work together so nicely. And again, like I said, they are a set of cards, but they're not particularly like birthday cards, but you can use them as birthday cards. If you are sending a get well soon card, one of these is going to be perfect. It's just a really great sort of generic occasion cards if you want to just say hello. Whatever that looks like, these are going to work perfectly. So don't always feel like you have to do like birthdays and happy birthday cards and things like that. You can just do something a bit more generic. So I'd forgotten that I needed to add a sentiment to my first slimline card. So I just took one of the other sentiments that I'd fussy cut out but I hadn't used. I trimmed off the bit that I had around it. So this is turning into a thanks card. So a little bit more specific, but again, still a really beautiful design. So now just to add the gems, so I've taken out my Chloe's Creative cards. These are like bling embellishments. I'm not really sure what the official name of these are, but you have 4 different colours and you have 3 different sizes. So you've got just like a normal sort of clear, silvery kind of colour. Then you've got like a light pink, a dark pink, and a colour that's multiple colours in there. Really great sets. You'll see me use these on a lot of cards, and a lot of my commissions actually I use these as well. And I wanted to use a few more of the pink ones, because we do have some pinks and things in here. I do tend to reach for either of the sort of plainer ones, unless I'm doing something specific where I've got pink in my colour palette, but I decided to add some of those in here as well. So I'm just using my jewel picker, and then again that Nouveau glue with that fine nib on the end of it, just to add a little bit of glue onto my card. And give or take, I'm kind of adding like 3. I tend to go with 3, to be honest, and just kind of scatter it around. I think the main thing to kind of follow, if you want to follow something, is to do it in triangles and have kind of odd numbers, just because it's a little bit more pleasing to the eye, I think. But this really does just help kind of finish these cards off, and it kind of just lifts everything a little bit more. So just to remind you, this was using the Tonic Studios or Craft Kit magazine. This is issue number 16. You can still buy this on the Craft Stash website, so you can head over there. Or, you know, potentially you'll still find it in shops. I don't know that this is the latest magazine that's come out, but like I said, certainly it's on sale on the Craft Stash website. So within this kit, you do get the papers, you get the inspirational magazine, you get a stencil, you get a die set, and you do get a stamp set as well. So lots in there for you to be creating. So like I said, I created 6 cards here with these papers. I've still got lots of papers left, and of course I still have the stamp, the die, and the stencil to use as well. So I created 2 6x6 square cards, 2 DL sized like slimline cards, and then 2 5x7 cards as well. So using lots of the elements in here, using the sentiments. There's still elements and sentiments left over. But these were more of the kind of cutesy images that I really wanted to use. They will make really great sets of cards if you want to create easy cards like this to sell. There's just a little bit of pre-planning ahead of time to kind of work out how you want to make these, but they come together so quickly. So there's another look at all of the cards. I really love how these are. I've said it, I'm going to say it again. These will be on sale on my Etsy shop, and there is a link in the description box down below for you to check that out. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. Also leave me a comment if you're interested in the die cutting machine or that portrait 3 as well. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so you don't miss out on any future videos. So that's going to be it for today. Thanks very much for watching, and happy crafting.